I think that the first, when we talk about thanks, I think the most important for us, and I really want to start with that, is I want to start the South African government for hosting us in the beautiful city of Cape Town. And I want to thank one particular person who really has helped us make this possible, who is Ken Terry, sitting here in front, without whom this would have never been possible. And Ken, you also have a fantastic team. I think we've all been impressed on how everything has just fallen into place and how everything is just seems so flawless. I wish all our disaster response could always be that well organized and structured. Ken is the head of the Disaster Management Center of South Africa. He actually started his career in the military, which is probably a good place to learn how to plan and how to execute. But he then went to work in the President's Office of South Africa, and we had very interesting conversation yesterday about his experience working with Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Zuma. That tells you about the caliber of the person. Ken is now really shaping up the disaster risk management agenda in South Africa. We all look forward to work with him. Ken, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm sure you have, I know you have a few words to say, and then we're going to go for the fun.
Thank you very much, Francis. It's quite nice to see that there are such a number of people that have stayed behind to listen to us and to be at the actual closing session. This has been an unbelievable 3 days, very gratifying. To be in a room and in conferences and listen to speakers that really take the business of understanding risk seriously and are passionate about it. One of the things that really struck me was listening to, especially some of us that have reached the 5-0 mark, and we on the downhill trend. We're looking forward to careers that relate to things of pension and all these kind of things. And you sit and you listen to some of these young people that are coming, that are so passionate, that spend so much of their private life and their private time giving back and really passionate about the business of risk reduction and understanding risk and disaster management. It makes me feel okay that, in a few years' time when I have to go, that this business is not going to stop. There is good work being done, and it's going to be carried on. And the whole concept of risk reduction, the encouraging part is that these young people are going to take us forward. And the exuberance of the youth sometimes is a very positive thing and not so negative as some people want to see it. The forum focused on so many issues. And one of the underlying issues that have come up over the past few days is how we get down to the communities. How do we get the traditional leadership? How do we get the people in the real urban areas involved? And that's for us in South Africa is one of our biggest risks in itself, is to get the message across to everybody to understand risk. We heard what the mayors had to say. And a lot of the time you hear it from a political perspective, but we are the ones that have to do it. We are the ones that have to, all these nice things that they sit in the councils and decide on, is to go and practically make these things work. And the challenge that we have, especially in our country, and I'm sure on the African continent, where it's been said a number of times, the huge amount of poverty and inequalities that there are, is getting down to the real grassroots level and getting people to understand that risk reduction and the understanding of risk, disaster management, all the aspects is what the minister had said at the opening statement is disaster management, as we call it, is everybody's business. This is not something that all the academics sitting over here, all these very intelligent people that can read and write, that can listen to beautiful presentations and see slides that make a whole lot of sense to us, although I must confess some of them were a bit mind-boggling. But we listen to these and we have a clear understanding. I live in the southern part of Africa, and there was a presentation I listened to this morning from Namibia, and then you only realize, but what we do has an impact on what they do. There are barriers that we need to break down. And these kinds of sessions is about breaking down those barriers, breaking down the silos that we live in, getting rid of this concept of, and it is true, somewhere along the line in my life, I also tried this academic thing, and it was around in the business world, and my concept of making things work was the first thing you remember is cash is king, and you look at the numbers and how do you crunch the numbers, but how do you equate those numbers to the lives of people? How do you equate those numbers to the very most vulnerable people that are affected by all the issues that were raised at different levels? And then one realizes that the impact that we have on each other's lives, whether you're sitting in the United States or whether you're in Africa or whether you're in Europe, the impact is the same for everybody. These disasters know no boundaries. They don't understand religion. And in South Africa, the cultural diversity is quite huge. Just by way of a language, I was saying to the colleagues last night that we have 11 official languages over here. So when we publish documents, there's 11 of them coming so that everybody can see them. But the fact of the matter is, when that tsunami hits you, when that hurricane comes, it doesn't understand the Xhosa and the Zulu culture. It doesn't understand the English and Afrikaans. It doesn't understand the German and the Flemish. It doesn't. I'm not so sure about the English, but it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand. And everybody has the same vulnerability. And what has been nice and enlightening these past 3 days is that's the message we're giving to each other. And how do we take that message forward? Everybody's business. That is what it is about. There's a number of people that I also thought was important that I should say a very big thank you to before I close. And there's all these exhibitors that were here, whether they were from the city of Cape Town, I don't want to name them individually, but they all contributed to us creating a family and understanding the family business. And we'd like to say thank you very much to all those organizations who are here. There's a core team. Francis said that there's a team that worked from us. We were under a bit of pressure in March when Dukle saw me for the first time and said that this forum has to take place here in South Africa. And at a very late stage, the decision was whether it was going to be in Durban at their center or here. And the go-ahead was given to him very late. And his team, which consists of Emma, Nosha, Brendan, Zina, and from our side, Craig and Ane, and Zelda and her team at Umfunzela, these guys have really gone the extra mile, and what we've experienced these past 2 days is a direct result of their contribution. And I think we should give them a real good round of applause. They've done an exceptional job. There's a few other people that I think we would not be doing what we're supposed to do if we don't say thank you to them. And the first one is Dr. Hildegard Fast, who also had to come and assist us. At a very late stage, we approached her. And those of you who were at the opening session, where she facilitated that session, and the session she facilitated this afternoon with the mayors, I think was done exceptionally well. And we want to thank her very much for that as well. All the speakers, all of you, all the session leads, all the panelists, and everybody that helped us during this event to make it a success. Thank you to all, for all your contributions. There's a number of sponsors that we want to thank, but I want to highlight a few. This whole session would not be possible if the World Bank hadn't come to the party and presented what they've done to us. And the World Bank, the African region, is we've got Dukle and Jonathan sitting in front of you. Jonathan and Dukle, thank you very much. We've had a wonderful experience. We've created a family. I was saying to somebody just now that in these sessions you speak to colleagues and you speak to ladies and gentlemen. I feel that we're a family over here, and this is not about a lady and gentleman and a colleague issue. And that's what we've created, and it is quite a unique thing. So Jonathan and Dukle, thank you very much from that. Now, one of the most important people is that cash is king concept, the money bags and all these things, the GFDRR. Francis, who was standing in front of you so eloquently, Francis, they were the major sponsors in terms of the finances, and we want to say thank you to you as well. Obviously, without that support, we would not have been able to deal with this whole 3 days. In closing, there's a couple of remarks I want to make, and we need in our fraternity to start thinking of the unthinkable. Those of you who attended that session, we have to get past the norms. The statistics are not going to help us. They are really not going to help us, because all these disasters have no barriers and they have no stats that they work according to. They've got their own barriers and their own stats, and we've seen that in all the presentations. The countries where we think that the preparedness levels are really exceptional, when the disaster comes, they find out that they didn't think out of the box. The unthinkable was not there. That is quite profound. We need to find ways of breaking down the silos that we live in. And that is something about the information sharing. We were able for 3 days to share information with each other in such a comfortable and easy way, and for us all to understand. But it shouldn't stop here. I can understand that knowledge is power. I understand that. But the kind of knowledge that we should need to share amongst each other is not about a power base. It's about the human life and how we take the prosperity of the world forward. And the last aspect is, how do we get this message to the most vulnerable people out there? They're not going to understand the presentations. They're not going to understand those beautiful photographs that we put up there and all the scales and the graphs. They're not going to understand that. The most vulnerable communities, those traditional leadership that we have to approach, those are the people that don't read and write. I'm speaking from a South African context, and I'm sure in the rest of the world, is how do we take the information that we've shared with each other? How do we simplify that? How do we get it down to grassroots level for everybody to understand? If they don't understand the business, I don't care what the politicians are saying. If they don't understand the business, they cannot help us. And disaster management is everybody's business. We all deal with disasters on a daily basis. So the concept of disaster is not there. I mean, if my wife stands in front of me and she says to me, have I put on a bit of weight? There's 3 ways in which I can answer. Now, this is where this disaster management concept comes in. I can ignore her and make as if I didn't hear her, hoping that she thinks that maybe I should not ask this question again, it'll go away. 99% of the time that doesn't happen. Or if you're lucky like I am, that you had a father that warned you about all these things and said, you say, no, it's perfect, nothing is wrong. And then there could be the disastrous one that you could be quite honest and sleep in the bath for the next 3 weeks. So it's about managing risk, and that's what we are doing. And the risk is sleeping in the bath for 3 weeks, and nobody likes doing that. So it's not an uncommon phenomenon. We deal with understanding risk on a daily basis. That's what we do. We decide whether we're going to walk over the road. What do? We check if there's a car coming. It's simple concepts. We've got to get our intricate and difficult business into simple language, and we've got to spread the news across the globe so that everybody understands. Climate change. If I go into a rural community and I try to tell a traditional leader over there about climate change, I mean, he's going to think that, first of all, I'm in South African context, I'm a bit pale, so he's going to think I'm some funny, evil alien that's arrived over there trying to tell him something that is not going to work. But I've got to get the message over, and how do I do that? And that's what our business is. Disaster risk management is everybody's business, and I hope to see you all in 2014. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming to South Africa.